Colossus be a part of that? Because Colossus has always been
a nice guy.
Yeah.
You know,
the gentle giant.
Yeah, he was the gentle giant with a warrior's heart. And then you see him he accepts Sidorak's offer to become the new Juggernaut, and right there, I was like, okay, what the hell?
Well, then again, this isn't the first time he's kind of gone to the dark side. Remember when he joined the Acolytes?
Yeah, after that, I remember that as well. But still, you know, we you'd have figured that after Joss Whedon took over and was writing him, you saw the old Colossus come back to the fold, and I was liking that. And then all of a sudden, he became a druggie. He literally became a druggie. It was like he couldn't go before AVX. He could not go a minute in a fight without tapping into that Juggernaut power. And I'm like, Colossus is a strong character, period. And you telling me you can't handle yourself without putting that armor on? Like, it started to question me too much. And I was like, he become a druggie. He's a drug addict now.
Well, I think once he got the power of Sidorak, I don't think we saw him go back into his human form until he became a member of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
He was just Colossus. He wasn't Pitor for like 13 issues.
Or
he would
in that case,
in his steel skin. He would stay in that.
Yeah, and a few issues in comics is usually like either days or weeks. But I think getting back on, you know, why the rest of the X-Men were kind of like okay with the Phoenix was like, I think they were kind of all sharing Scott's desperation for more mutants, and they thought, you know the old saying, ignorance is bliss.
Right.
Maybe they were they could fool themselves into thinking, yeah, maybe 5 Phoenixes and these guys, we've known these guys for long enough. I mean, they're our friends. We can have them on our side. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're strong enough. But I think after a while, they're like, what were we thinking?
Right. Although I had a question about AVX that I don't think was ever answered at the end. In issues 5 and 6, we see the Phoenix Five basically change the world. They end everything we have going on in our lives. You know, the ozone layer, the world hunger, the fact that only 3% of the Earth's water is actually consumable, and basically they made Earth an actual utopia. Not to make a pun, basically, but in issue 12, we hear through narration, because Jason Aaron kind of, out of all the writers, he sort of narrates this like he's a movie trailer guy. But he talks about the Earth is shaking and like splitting and corrupting during the fight with Cyclops and all the Avengers and X-Men. So I was wondering, did all this work they did to make Marvel such a nice place to live become completely moot in one fight?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great.
And once again, that's coming to the point of they focused that stuff more into the tie-ins, because we saw that stuff happening in X-Men Legacy and stuff like that. Where
I remember you reviewed an issue about that, and Cyclops was like trying to recreate the Bengal tiger population.
Yeah, he recreated the Bengal tiger. We saw Rogue, and that was where we finally got what most of us were looking for, a confrontation between Rogue and Carol Danvers, who was still Ms. Marvel at the time. And even in that fight, it really wasn't a fight until Rogue, once again, they kept making it like, oh, the X-Men is going to throw the first punch. And she just came there to talk, and she kept saying, Rogue, I'm just here to talk. And she just kept fighting her, and then Rogue did something I will never forget. She tried to absorb her again, and that's where Ms. Marvel was like, okay, I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
Well,
actually, on the other hand, you got to remember that before then, Moon Knight and She-Hulk kind of were starting trouble when she was trying to teach a class, so she was already on edge.
Right.
Yeah, Moon Knight was kind of starting some shit.
Well, actually, you got to also put Frenzy kind of started it too. She set it off. She set the fire again. Like, she told him, like, yeah, you're crazy. Because they both know each other by reputation, because they both were mercenaries at one point. So she was like, yeah, I know you, and I can't believe the Avengers got a crazy guy like you, and then that just set him off.
Oh, Moon Knight, you so cray-cray.
And she's like, you know, you just crossed the line. Like, she made a line in the sand, like, don't come over this line. And she's like, oh, look, you just crossed the line. And then she started. And then, of course, She-Hulk started something, too, because one of the kids tried to attack her, and she seismic
almost
slapped.
killed him.
She almost killed him, and then it was like, and then it was. I felt for Falcon. He was like, oh God, like, oh, oh God, here we go. Like, Sam was trying to be peacemaker, and and then she was like, Jennifer, I can't believe you did that. It was like, what? He was coming at me. I didn't know.
Yeah.
All I saw was a monster.
And then
he was on fire, a fire monster.
Yeah, and then I remember like in another issue there was kind of like Hulk comes after Jennifer, and he actually says, "What was wrong with you? What gave you the purpose to do that?"
Yeah.
How pointless was Hulk in this story, though?
Yeah,
they make a big thing in issue 11 about how they go and recruit him, and then he smashes Emma and gets punched from Australia to Sacramento in issue 12, and that's it for the Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Rolf has become the important character in this world now.
Mario, you got anything to say about any of this?
I mean, what part? I mean, I'm just listening and agreeing. So it's like I mean, yeah, I do feel a lot of the story was, told, some of it off panel. So I guess my question would be now that it's over, now that it's ended, and I guess everybody would look at this differently, and maybe you judge it differently. Would you say it was worth it? Would you say would you do it again? Would you read it again? I mean, how would you look at this event? Because that's just a question I'm going to put out there, because I have mixed feelings about it right now. Like, now that I'm kind of like observing it and just saying, okay, so what was it worth it? Because a lot of the issues, the main story, the main one was like, okay, sometimes it felt kind of devoid of the other series that it spun off. Like, they were more detailed about the personal characters, and in the main one, a lot of it was reacting and some character growth here and there. But yeah.
I kind of looking forward to seeing this AVX Consequences book, like
the A plus X.
No, not the team up books. That's a team
Consequence.
It's some called it's Consequences. Like, after, like, what are the consequences, ramifications of what happened?
Kind of like Fear Itself, the Fearless.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much in a sense.
Except I hope this aftermath tie-in doesn't become as superfluous as that one did.
Yeah. Among other things, like what you were saying, Rick, about about Ross being a bigger character than Bruce was, Ross did have some points in here. Like, I remember in some issues of Avengers where he was like, we can't think of them as our friends anymore. They fired the first shot, and even there was that issue of...
Avengers 29, he went to go and kill Cyclops. Yeah. He got his ass kicked.
Yeah.
And he actually got, like, the X branded on his chest.
Yeah, but he was... Ross did have a good point, Cyclops... He pretty much predicted it. Cyclops is going to lose this war because he's not willing to go that edge yet.
Which we later saw that, yeah, he kind of did.
Yeah, and maybe Ross was probably thinking when he saw it, he was like, I spoke too soon.
I'll give him this. He's got motivation.
Yeah. Among other things, I think, like you were saying with Ross, is that in other issues of Avengers, like I was saying, like he was kind of coaching Steve, like, we're both soldiers, we have to look at it as a war. I mean, I don't want to look at it as like a xenomorphic war, but if we be nice with these guys, they're gonna stomp all over us. These are we got some powerhouses here. Even before they were possessed by the Phoenix, Ross was kind of telling Steve, look, we can't handle this diplomatically anymore. They slapped us in the face.
Although I kind of find it funny that, like, for decades, people have always called Cyclops such a little bitch and such a little Boy Scout. And when he finally apparently grows a pair, even though he's always been a badass, and people say he finally got off his ass and did something and became a true leader, he gets turned into a fucking villain. Like, really? There was nowhere for Cyclops to go in the end.
Well, I want to recall, they have always referred to Cyclops as a bit of a bitch, but I never saw it. I mean, he's not a... I never see him either as a Boy Scout. He always seemed uptight to me. You know, like
it's just how he was written because Wolverine was so popular for so long. Cyclops was just the straight man to Wolverine's raging id.
right. Cyclops always seemed uptight, serious. You know, he was the leader. You know, he's the guy who, you know, was gonna carry on Xavier's team. So he had all the responsibility. It's easy being Wolverine. You know, go stab some people, drink some beer. That's fun. Come on. But
although in the end, Cyclops still wins because he was the one who was tapping Jean.
yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like in that issue of Schism where the one thing that set Wolverine off wasn't the fact of the Sentinels, it was what Scott said.
Yeah.
What would Jean think of you? Which one of us would she be more scared of, Scott?
Right.
Yeah, and then it was kind of like when Scott said she never loved you. I was like, that's kind of like you could almost hear in the background someone going, "Ooh."
Oh shit! It's going down.
That was a great love triangle.
Yeah.
Except for the movies where it was all one-sided and completely Wolverine and Jean.
Yeah. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Schism. We're here to talk about AVX. I think among other things, you were right that I think the tie-ins did do more for character arc rather than, you know, tell a consecutive story. At least in this one, at least in AVX, we have a consecutive story rather than it becoming kind of monotonous, like Fear Itself or something that was just so overblown. I feel like for Avengers vs. X-Men, they didn't really they didn't pimp it out like they did with Fear Itself and the other past few events. It's not like, yeah, check it out, Avengers vs. X-Men, it's happening, and they didn't go around like over promoting it like they did with the other events. It was just kind of like, hey, I think everyone involved in this just thought, hey, it's a cool idea, let's do it.
Well, when we all did Chris and Ty, you guys, when you did your AVX thoughts like a year ago, and I did too.
Wasn't a year ago, it was months ago.
Yeah, it was months ago. We didn't know what was going to happen with this story. But I went back and watched mine. I was like way off the mark.
Yeah.
At least this story did kind of do the unexpected, I guess. But my biggest question is, was it necessary? Did we have to get the status quo changed at the expense of Scott Summers? Because you know in a few years, he's probably just going to sacrifice himself, and a decade later they'll just Hal Jordan him and bring him back as a good guy.
Well, from what it looks like, there's going to be some consequences, because since the younger X-Men team is coming to the 616, there's going to be a throwdown between him and his younger self.
Yeah, but he's currently in prison. Can we actually get into that? The big fallout of AVX is going to be all new X-Men. But my question is, the original team of X-Men coming to the present...
I don't like that. That's why I'm not picking that out.
First off, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't even know where the original X-Men are coming from. Because we know the original X-Men started in the 60s, and they're being brought to the present. But if you go by continuity, technically the X-Men would have had to have formed in the 90s, and instead of getting off into a long tangent that I know I'm able to do very easily, I know it's Bendis, so this story is going to take a long fucking time to get to its conclusion. But I just don't know how All New X-Men is supposed to go.
Yeah.
Why do we need them?
Yeah.
In the present day.
And once again, I bring up my point of Bendis reads better in trades.
Yeah.
That's why I think that's what this Consequences book is. Maybe it has something to do with what Emma did. I mean, what Wanda did with the whole, what she did at the end of the issue, which I don't want to spoil for anybody who hasn't read it.
Yeah.
Well, semi-spoiler by now, Cyclops loses.
This whole thing has been big spoilers.
Yeah.
Should we just get into spoilers and put a spoilers alert?
At this point, I'm kind of people should know I kind of spoil stuff after it's kind of revealed, because it's been a few days. Everyone, right. And the secret's already out.
I could be in the headline of the video. Spoiler. This is heavy spoilers, because we spoiled just about everything.
Because I'd like to point out, I thought it was actually a very well done way for them to sort of write the Phoenix out of continuity for now. I don't know if it's gone forever, because we find out that it's the whole yin to the chaos magic of Wanda's yang. But the way they kind of say no more Phoenix and make like the mutant population, restart again, I found that was a pretty tidy ending.
Yeah, and for some reason, the Phoenix ain't gone. We know that the Phoenix will come back somehow. It like the name says, death and rebirth.
Right.
I mean, at least Jean's coming back without the Phoenix doing it. Although I really hope, like, all new X-Men Jean doesn't die too, because at this point
Stop it.
I'm sorry, she's just a living gift these days.
I don't like the premise of that. I hate it. I'm gonna ignore it. I refuse to acknowledge it. I don't like all new X-Men. It's completely stupid. Just keep them in the past. I don't even, if I think a friend's gonna pick it up, I'll read it with anger and be like, this is stupid, keep reading, this is stupid. I'm not gonna buy it because it's just, I don't like the premise. It's completely dumb. I mean, come on.
Well, to be honest, I didn't really like the premise of AVX when it started, which is why I actually shoplifted the first 5 issues.
What?
From my Barnes & Noble.
You did what?
They don't have a security system, but that's beside the point.
Jesus Christ, you keep your mouth shut about that.
No, you know what? That's not so bad because it leads me to something. Because it was 12 issues long, and I know it read fast, but it was entirely too long. It was way too long for my taste. It was $3.99 a pop an issue.
And then, not to mention...
It was $4.99 for issue 12.
Right.
That's redonkulous.
Right. The first half, the artwork was weak, and it felt kind of like a repeat. I feel the second half was a lot better and a lot stronger. But the first half was like, oh, come on now. I just felt like I was wasting my money at some point. But even though I ended up enjoying the event, it was like, it's entirely too long with 12 issues, even though we're complaining a little bit of, there wasn't enough character development, and that kind of happened in the off issues, but even still, way too long. 12 issues, it felt like a drag. Like
12 issues was too long for this. 7 issues was too long for Fear itself.
Right.
This could have been told in, 8-10 issues.
Yeah. I mean, look at Blackest Night. That was told in... Granted, it was long, but it wasn't 12 issues long.
It was 8 issues, but I haven't read Blackest Night yet. I'm really behind on DC.
Right, well, if the story is well done like Blackest Night, then it doesn't feel long. And it felt like, even though it was, I forgot how many issues it was, I think, I'm trying to remember, the prequels to Blackest Night, the Lantern War, or the Sinestro Corp War, and those didn't feel long at all, but I'm sure they were. But since they were so well crafted, they were so well done, it was like, it didn't feel like it. This felt long.
And they were so well written, and they had the same creative team throughout. This, absolutely. I think it suffered from so many writers and artists.
No, it did.
Suffered from one, actually, to me.
Fraction. Although, to be fair, I'm giving him a shot on Future Foundation. More so on the ground of Mike Allred.
Yeah, the Madman guy can do no wrong.
Yeah. If with Fraction, somebody once said to me, like, look, why don't you give, because I was one that was like, I don't know if I'm going to pick up FF, because he's on it, and it's like you handing the ball over to him when Hickman did such a great run, which his run comes to an end next week, so it was like, and somebody said, you know what, why don't you give the first issue a try and then see how you like it from there. I'm just saying, but, the Future Foundation looks interesting, but I just can't see Katy Perry, Miss Thing, and that just really trips me out right there.
Yeah. Well, you are liking his Hawkeye stuff.
Yeah. And that's impressive. I'm really shocked at how good he's doing with Hawkeye.
Although I find Hawkeye different. It's not so much Fraction writing Hawkeye as Fraction writing Clint Barton.
Yeah, true. But that's a good book. I like Hawkeye. I am picking that up.
I don't pick it up, but I do read it in the store. I do enjoy each issue.
So, but besides that, it does. this event did just show that it's setting up for a new era in Marvel, and the titles that are coming out from each, they keep showcasing new themes and stuff like that, like Hunters or something like that, and they show the creative teams on it. Like I've told everybody before, I'll be reading the titles that I've always read, and if the newer stuff, I think the newer stuff that I'll be picking up is probably the Cable and X Force, because
and Uncanny Avengers.
And I probably, and of course the Uncanny Avengers, because Hickman, and I've always